Hi, Tired. I'm Matt, and this is Ryan, and we're Dadcast. How you doing, Ryan?
I am doing good. So, I just want to let you know that I've been thinking a lot this week about how I feel like I should just be a farmer. But it kind of sucks because the more and more I thought about it, the more I kind of realized, I just wouldn't make a good farmer. I'd constantly be giving all of my cows presents and showering them with affection, and all I would end up with is spoiled milk.
Oh, gosh. Oh. 2 out of 10. Rough crowd tonight.
That's what every girl that I ever asked out said.
Oh, God.
All 2 of them.
All 2 of them. 2 out of 10. Oh, that's funny. Anywho, thanks for that. I'm gonna go cry in the corner for a bit. Try to recover from that spoiled milk.
Because it was so funny.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm going to do, Ryan. But how's your week been?
So, it's been pretty good. There's been quite a number of things that have been going on with our daughter, stuff going on. So she had a G-tube for quite a while. Recently got removed, which, hooray, that's a good thing. The site did not heal up and close the way that it should have. So, boo, not a good thing. So she actually just had surgery yesterday, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Had surgery yesterday to get it closed up. She is doing perfectly fine now. It seems like basically after she's fully recovered here in a couple days, it's just going to be perfectly fine. So
Sweet.
That was kind of the kind of big major rough thing of this week. But aside from that, like, all good things, man. I did something. I took a risk. I took a very big risk.
Let's hear it.
I played with fate, man. I got a chicken sandwich from Burger King. And I did not regret it.
Nice.
I was perfectly fine afterwards. No hospital trip needed.
Good. Although that's excellent.
Yes. Although the chicken was not cooked super great. The breading was kind of overdone, and the chicken was a little bit dry. So I'm probably not going to get a chicken sandwich from there again, at least anytime soon, just because I was a bit disappointed. But I did not end up in the restroom, so that's a positive point there.
That's good.
Yes. Good.
We are all glad to hear that you are having good bowel movements this week.
Yeah, I got to get that weekly update in, I guess.
Right. Got to let our viewers know whether we're going to the bathroom okay or not.
Yep. I'm gonna make I'm gonna make like an opening segment thing to it. That's just like a little jingle, and it's like, potty time update.
Oh gosh. Why did that remind me of one of our episodes of Naked and Amazios? I still have that song haunting me as I drive to work sometimes. I drive to school, and I just hear it like Naked and Amazios. I'm like, oh my god, no.
It's infiltrated your brain.
Yes,
you cannot escape.
Oh gosh,
it's a good song.
Well, it is. So, but I'm glad your daughter's procedure went well, and hopefully she's not leaking stomach acid anymore.
Yes.
Or bile or whatever was coming out of there.
Yeah. I will say that was the one thing that led to us. So we went to the emergency room a few nights ago at the children's hospital because she was crying at 10 o'clock, I think, or 10:30, something like that. Because I think we were actually supposed to record an episode that night, if memory serves me right. And we hadn't even started yet. My wife goes to go check on her, realizes, oh, her onesie is kind of wet. I guess she's been leaking. I need to change it, right?
Mm.
Goes to go and change her diaper and her onesie, and just on the inside where the site was, just caked in what appeared to be essentially like stomach bile, almost
Lick.
like a poop kind of like stuff, just all on the inside, and it was caked on there. It was
Ooh.
easily the worst leakage stuff of hers that I've ever seen. Normally it's just, little bits of liquid here and there, and it's like a clear color and things like that, where, not really super concerning, just, hey, why is that leaking? It shouldn't be. This was pretty jarring and concerning. So we took her to the emergency room that night. They told us that it was going to be quite a long wait because there was a lot of people in the waiting room. We were there for it was like 4 hours. I think we got there around like 11, and we were there until like 2:30 in the morning, and it was still going to be another 3 or 4 people before us to get in and get rooms because they were that busy and that filled up. So we decided, well, she's asleep and she hasn't been leaking at all since, we cleaned her up and got a new bandage on there and stuff. Screw this. We're just going to go home, and then we're going to call, her GI doctor in the morning, and then, get her into like an urgent care place to check it out again. And, see, go from there. And they referred us to a doctor to get it closed up. So the doctor that actually put in the G-tube was scheduled for the following day to close up the holes. And that doctor has been doing so much good for us, and is very, very good with Genevieve with all the stuff that she's had to do.
That's awesome, man.
So we're very glad that was the doctor that got scheduled, and did a perfectly good job. And Genevieve is all good and fine now, so it's all good.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that, man.
Yes. So, how about you, my guy? How has your week been?
Foggy. I've been sick for the past couple of days, and I've just been trying to recover. I want to say the past 3 days I've been just sleeping constantly.
Nice.
And I tried to push through it on Friday because that's usually the day that we have class in the morning, and then our little hands-on portion throughout the other half of the day. I go and I still feel a little sick. My body's a little achy, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna push through it. And during the lecture, I just get these sharp pains in the right side of my head, right above my eyeball, and the light is super sensitive. And whenever my teacher says something and it's loud, then my hearing makes my headache even worse, and it's just I was just miserable 100% to the point by the time the lecture was over at 9 o'clock, I went to my teacher. I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna go home or to the hospital or something to see what the hell's going on with me, because I feel like absolute shit. So I go home and I'm like, you know what, I'm tired, I'm just gonna take a nap. And I get home around 9:30 or whatever. I lay down and I wake up at 4:30 to my wife coming home with my daughter. And I'm like, wow, I slept all day. And I still feel like crap. And it was the same thing for today. Just kind of slept the whole entire day and slept all the way until 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I don't feel quite as much like crap, but I do get bouts of nausea here and there and some pains at the base of my skull. So I really don't know what's going on. I think I'll get better. I hope I get better.
Yeah, I don't want to have to find a new co-host.
Right? For real. I know. So I think I'll get better. But we'll see. Well, I'll keep everyone posted on that. So, anywho, talking about our horrific weeks. is kind of a fitting topic for this week's topic, which is, drumroll please, horror video games. Right? Horror video games. No, I did not say horror video games. I said horror video games.
These video games put out.
Right?
I don't even know how that works.
God. Just so everyone else knows, this episode was originally Ryan's idea for the video games that made us. And while filming, or not filming, but kind of filming, recording that episode.
Filming for your ears.
Yes, recording. So while we were recording that episode, we realized soon and very quickly that what were we in, like 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
And we decided to try to cut it short as fast as possible. And we realized there's just so many video games we've played throughout the years that have made us to who we are that we need to split this up into separate genres.
Mm-hmm.
So this week's genre is going to be over horror games. And I would like to start this episode out by saying that the whole reason I am into horror games is because of my dad or stepdad. And just in case you guys haven't heard that episode before, whenever I refer to my dad, I always say refer to him, my stepdad, as my dad, not my actual dad, because he's a pile of hot garbage. Anyways, moving
all
forward.
Dads are, except us.
Yeah.
The two of us. We're great.
Yeah, we mold 100%.
Yep.
But I kind of want to dedicate this episode to him just because his birthday was on February 24th, and he's been gone for a while now, ever since June of 2020. And he's kind of the whole reason I'm actually into video games at all. And the very first video games I ever played were actually horror video games. And we'll get into that first topic here in a little bit, but I just want to dedicate that to him and say that, it's awesome that I had that kind of relationship with him to where I could get into these video games and still play them today. And I still think of my dad when I play a certain franchise, which is actually going to be our first franchise that we're going to talk about. And it's maybe a good transitioning point into a franchise me and you both love dearly.
Yes.
So that would be Resident Evil, made by Capcom.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start this off by telling a story about my very first interaction with Resident Evil. How old was I? I want to say I was like maybe 5-6 years old, somewhere in kindergarten or whatnot. And my dad was playing the PlayStation and got Resident Evil, I believe it was Resident Evil 2 for the PlayStation. And I wanted to watch him play. And my mom would always tell my dad, hey, make sure he doesn't watch you play his video games. Like, he gets a lot of nightmares and all that, which I did get a lot of nightmares and night terrors. And she was like, I just don't want to have Matthew sleeping in the bed with us again because he had another nightmare or whatnot. And then my dad was like, sure, yeah, no problem. Like, don't worry about it. Go to bed. And so my mom would go to bed. And I would come out and be like, hey, Dad, can I watch you? And he'd be like, yeah, sure. Just don't tell your mother about this. And don't come into our bed with night terrors. Spoiler alert, I ended up in their bed every night. Anywho, I remember he picked this game out at Blockbusters. And I remember getting a box of hot tamales, the little spicy candies, like cinnamon spice candies.
Yep.
And so I remember watching my dad playing Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation, and I remember eating some spicy hot tamales, and I remember it being so hot, and that my eyes were watering or crying or whatever, and then I'm watching him play this game, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Like, this is scary, but I'm a big boy now. Like, I can handle it. And that's some of the best moments I have with my dad was watching him play this video game. And then I wouldn't be able to sleep. So I sleep with my parents every night. My mom would get pissed. But great memories nonetheless. So, but now I want to switch gears into when I actually started playing those games. Because once I got a little older and got a little bit more braver, I started playing these video games. I started with the very first original one, Resident Evil. Not the remake version, the original one on PlayStation.
Oh.
Yeah, and the tank controls killed me. And I know you play like the remake, and did the remake have tank controls?
Yes. Yes, it did.
It's so different than any other video game I played. And looking back, I can see exactly why the tank controls had to be there, because they had multiple camera angles as you went through like the mansion or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was so hard to get a hold of and all that fun stuff. And I remember my dad always getting mad at the game because he couldn't understand the controls either. And my dad would say, like, just put me inside the game, but put me inside the game and I can blow these zombies' heads off myself. Like, he's like, I can do it much better than this guy can in this video game. Later,
that's just, I'm sorry to cut you off for a second, but that just reminded me of I do so much better than this guy. Freaking Chris 9 Pockets Redfield.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, you know, flash forward to like Resident Evil 5 where he punches a fucking boulder.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of my first intro to Resident Evil, and I really didn't get too far into Resident Evil until it got to like Resident Evil 4, where it finally became third person.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was third person over the shoulder, and Resident Evil 4, phenomenal game. I'm so excited for the remake coming out here soon.
Yes.
But that was like my first journey into a Resident Evil game, and actually realizing like that, hey, I actually really like these games. And then I dived back into the other games and finally beat those. But I think I've rambled on enough about my journey starting off into Resident Evil. So Ryan, why don't you share with us your journey into Resident Evil and how you got into it?
Yes. So I had zero idea that this series even existed until at some point I was spending the night at a certain somebody's house who will remain nameless. Just kidding. It was you. And so I'm a really interesting, I think, person when it comes to like spooky horror type stuff. Because when I was younger, I was not very brave in the slightest. Yeah. I remember watching my first horror movie when I was, I don't even remember how old I was. I was maybe like 8, I think, or maybe 9. And we watched Child's Play 2, and I could not sleep properly for over a year after watching that movie. I then subjected myself, I finally got better, and I think it was either that next year or maybe the Halloween after that, I watched one of the Halloween movies with Michael Myers on my own. Like, it was just on TV, so I watched it. Nobody knew I had watched this. For the 6 months after that, I could not sleep very well through the night.
Oh, gosh.
But after that, I don't think I watched horror movies for a few years after that. And I can watch horror movies perfectly fine now, and they don't scare me at all. So, I don't know. At some point, I guess after that, my brain just flipped a switch. And I'm perfectly fine watching horror movies now. Oddly enough, I never had an issue with horror games. So I went over to your house, and you were super into Resident Evil at the time. And first watched, I want to say it might have been Resident Evil 4, I believe, that you had started playing. And I'm watching you play it, and I'm like, this game actually looks really cool. And didn't scare me at all. I didn't have any, freakouts or anything with it, or anything subsequent to that. But at some point, shortly after that, or at some point, I remember it was at some point, because you also had the remake of the original Resident Evil on the GameCube, and I also had a GameCube at the time, and you had let me borrow it because I was really liking the series from what I was watching you play of it. And you had told me, yo, yeah, there's like a lot of like puzzles and stuff in the first one too. And so if that's like your thing, you know, you would really like it. And I am an absolute sucker for that shit. I love games that have like puzzles and things like that in them. Like, sign me up for that crap. I love it. And as I was playing through the remake, which I alluded to earlier, yeah, they had the freaking tank controls in there. Which it took me so long to get used to that because it was just so bizarre compared to anything else I'd ever played. And I'll make a little note here too. So they have like an HD remake of the original remake that's on Xbox One and I think PlayStation 4. They added an option in there to change the controls so you can do like regular controls now with it. Really? And it feels so fucking wrong. I
suffering for so many years.
Yes. And it was so interesting because I wanted to jump in and start playing, and I started with like the tank controls because I was like, oh, that's what I'm used to playing with this game from, you know, whenever I played it like 15 years ago or however long it was. And I was so out of date with it that it was difficult. I was like, okay, I might have to put it to easy mode and change it to the other controls. I start playing and I'm turning the wrong direction and I couldn't do it that way either. And my brain was just telling me, hey, I'm not working properly right now. Come back later. And so I haven't played it since then because I can't play it with tank controls. I can't play it without tank controls. I just can't fucking play it. My brain won't let my fingers do what they're supposed to do.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that was my original jump point for the series. I played through that one, and then obviously, you know, later on when I had an Xbox 360, Resident Evil 5 came out, so I bought Resident Evil 5 and played it. We played it together a bunch because it was co-op. There's so many ridiculous shit and funny stuff from like the late nights of playing that together.
I remember us yelling Mufasa constantly.
There was I remember this one particular time. There's a portion where you're kind of in like these underground, like Aztec temple type, you know, place, and you know, there's the whole Indiana Jones. You're running through a hallway while there's a giant boulder chasing you type of situation going on, and so you have to button. It's a quick time event, so you're, you know, rapidly pressing a button to run, and then you come up to like a gap in the floor and there's spikes and you have to hit a button to jump across, like that kind of thing. I remember at one point, again, this was super late at night and we were both very tired and we're running and we had to do it like 3 or 4 times because we would get to like one of the holes with the spikes, and
I remember. Yeah, I remember this.
I remember. I think it was you the first time, maybe, where I hit the button and I jump across. You either hit the wrong button or didn't hit it in time, and your character jumps and just kind of stops in midair and just falls into the spikes. Yep. We're both completely silent, and you just go, "Oops."
Oh, that's so funny. I remember that. And I remember we kept doing it over and over and over, and we just could not get it right.
Yeah, and I think we traded off every now and then of like who fucked up at some point. And I remember Yeah, there was one point where my finger was kind of tired and I wasn't running fast enough, and I got ran over by the boulder. And,
I remember. And wasn't that the same area where like the very tall enemies were that we always would call Mufasa?
yes.
And
Yep.
and then every single time we saw them, we were like, Mufasa.
Mufasa. Yeah, we'd get a headshot and run into like kick or punch one, and Mufasa. Yeah, yeah, a lot of good memories with Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
And then they released a remake, or well, not a remake technically, it was a port of Resident Evil 4 on 360, and that was one of the ones that I wanted to go back and replay, but I never, getting it on GameCube at that point was impossible unless I was willing to shell out hundreds of dollars, which that wasn't happening. And or PlayStation 2, which I didn't have one of those, and it was still going to cost a lot of money. But they had ported it to the 360, so I was able to actually purchase it and go back and play through it and stuff for the first time. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I can totally see why that was the one that sort of kickstarted your love for the series in terms of playing it. Yeah, I think it's phenomenal. I would probably argue it might be the best of. It's for certain the best of the third person over the shoulder Resident Evils. I can't really say in regards to the two newer ones whether or not it would technically be better, but I think out of the first 6, it's probably the best. That's just my thinking, and there's probably a good number of fans that would agree with that.
Yeah, and yeah, I would say it's the best, and it's also the longest one. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think it like clocks in at an average game time of like 10 to 14 hours, which the other Resident Evil games are around 7 to 9 hours for average, which is crazy.
Yeah, I remember the first one, or at least the remake for the first one, there was I think it's like you unlocked a special weapon with unlimited ammo. Yeah, if you completed the game in under 10 hours, I think, or under 8 hours.
It's much less than that. The first game, you get that weapon by completing the game in less than 3 hours.
3 hours? Okay. I remember...
less than 3 hours.
Yeah, I remember... I got very close to that time. I think I was like 10 minutes over or somewhere around there. And I was like, no!
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, and I knew specifically there was like a particular portion of the game where I kind of lagged a little bit, and I knew that was where I messed up. But, yeah, so... Oh,
yeah. So you need to be like running everywhere.
Yes.
And I was running.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because a lot of it there was a lot of foreplanning you had to do too, to make sure that you weren't backtracking and wasting time. It was.
Oh, there's so much of that. There's so much backtracking.
Yep.
And then zombies come back to life.
Yeah.
And,
I think that's what got me at one point. I had forgotten to do something and I had to backtrack, and it cut my time.
Oh yeah. And I can totally see that. But I think this would actually be a good point for us to kind of, since we both play the games, you played it all the way up until Resident Evil 6, right?
Yes.
So I think it would be good for us to kind of do like a mini analysis of every game and just kind of go forward. So we've already said kind of our comments about the first one with the tank controls. It was kind of our introductions into the series.
Yeah.
And all that. The only other thing that I can remember from the first game that I hated was going in the underwater portion where the lab was and being attacked by fucking sharks.
The sharks.
Yeah. And I was like, damn it, you fucking sharks. So yeah, I hated that part. It took me a while to play the first game. There are a lot of puzzles, a lot of backtracking, and a lot of like where you look at the map and be like, okay, I'm here. I have to get to the whole other side of the mansion, underground, through this passage, do a backflip over a tree, and then get a coin to where I have to go back to the exact place I'm at now so that way I can get a crank, so that way I can go back to that one area, so that way I can then get another coin, so I can come back and then get this shotgun. Like,
Yep.
oh, so, but overall, I think it was a really good game. The remake is definitely better than the original.
Mm-hmm.
The original is hot garbage. That may be an unpopular opinion, but yeah, the remake was a lot better. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I will say I think there's a good reason why, like, any of the times they've re-released it, they always specifically pick the remake. That's like the one they base the like re-release off of. It's because it's good. And I would say for me personally, I don't know. It's weird because I would maybe put it up at like number 2 of the ones that I've played.
Oh, okay.
It's like in overall,
I wouldn't quite place that number 2. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've only played half of the games technically. I played the original 4, 5, and 6. So I never played 2. I never played 3, and then I haven't played 7 or 8 yet.
Okay.
So out of the ones that I've played, I would probably put it at number 2, even though I do really enjoy Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. But I think overall, in terms of the package of what it's supposed to be, Resident Evil is survival horror. The 5 is more action with some horror, and 6 is basically just a really cool ass action game.
Pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. So, not to cut into like those yet, but the original one had not really very much action in terms of what you could do, but tons of good horror and making you feel uneasy and all of that. Like, so they hit the atmosphere perfectly. I loved the fact that there were so many. You're in a mansion, but there's so many different like locales and different types of places that you go to.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's like some outdoor areas, like a graveyard, the
laboratory underneath.
Yeah, there's just so much, even with just it being a mansion, that they were able to do with it, which is really awesome. Yeah, just the puzzles I really liked. It did get kind of old and annoying sometimes, like you were saying, with, you would get an item here, and then you have to backtrack through the laboratory, through the basement, back through the mansion, back outside, back to the graveyard to, put that item in to grab a crank to then go all the way back to the laboratory. Like, do that crap. Kind of got old sometimes and annoying, but overall, I think very solid game, very solid.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was definitely a good starting point, and then the remake made it even better. And Resident Evil, Capcom is really good at making remakes, is what I found out.
Yes.
Because the remakes are awesome, and that kind of flows into our next topic, or not next topic, but like the next game of Resident Evil 2, which I watched my dad play a lot of it, and I think that kind of goes into detail about which characters me and you like the most, because I like Leon the most. Leon's like one of my favorite characters, and Chris Redfield is one of your favorite characters. I remember that.
Yes.
And I remember when Resident Evil 6 brought them both together, not to jump too forward, but I remember we were ecstatic about that.
Yeah, we flipped shit.
Yes. But Resident Evil 2, I'll kind of lump together Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 together, because Resident Evil 3 wasn't actually supposed to be the third game. It was actually supposed to be Code Veronica was supposed to be the third game. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
So they labeled the actual third game Code Veronica, but Resident Evil 3 was actually supposed to be like an addition onto Resident Evil 2 to flesh out the story a little bit from Jill Valentine's point of view. But both the games are pretty good. I like the idea of going through Raccoon City as a whole and having so much more area to explore. You're a rookie cop. It's your very first day, and you meet this college student that's looking for brother Chris Redfield, and then you get separated by an exploding semi-truck full of gasoline. Uh, so it's a really good game. I like it. The remakes made it 10 times better, both for the second and the third game. I would say that the second game is probably better than the third game, just because Nemesis is really annoying in the third game. It's so annoying in the third game. But the second game, I would say that's probably my number 2 game, is Resident Evil 2.
Nice.
Because it introduces Leon, how he's a rookie cop, and kind of his backstory into it all, and it introduces like Claire Redfield, which is a really good character as well. Yeah, it's a really good game. If you haven't played it, I recommend playing the remake first. Though the remake story and the original story are slightly different. It's still a good experience to experience it for the remake, which I will say the remake for Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, they go away from the tank controls and they stick to the third person over the shoulder controls.
Yeah.
So that does so much for it, and I think it's exactly what the fans wanted. It's what I wanted, and it's an overall very good game. I would say it's like my number 2. And with you not playing those games, I think this would be a good point for us to move forward to the game that we both have played.
Yes.
Which is arguably, I think, the number 1 game out of the series, and quite possibly the remake could very well surpass it.
Yes.
But it is Resident Evil 4, which the remake is going to be coming out at the end of this month in March.
Woo!
So I'm excited for it. I'm going to get it as soon as it drops. That way I can play it. I remember playing Resident Evil 4 and it being a completely different feel. It still had the horror vibe from it, like survival horror game where you had to manage your inventory and all that. I love the suitcase, having to manage your suitcase.
Yes.
Like organizing it was like the best thing ever, and having so much stuff to just like be able to fit in your suitcase, which is unrealistic, but I loved it nonetheless. And the story is really good. The only thing that I would say bad about it is Ashley. I hate the part where you have to play as Ashley, and you feel so worthless after playing as like this, ex-cop trained by, the government to be a special agent and all that, to just go to play as a college girl that has no idea what to do anything except throw lanterns at enemies.
Because she can't throw daddy's presidential money.
Exactly. But it was a really good game. I like the part where you could upgrade your own weapons, and everything was all in chapters, and it'll let you know like how your accuracy was and all that. And I've played this game multiple times through on different consoles. I played on the GameCube, I played on the PlayStation 2, 3, 4, 5. And I've also played it in VR as well.
Nice.
And I would say the best way to play it is actually in VR on the MetaQuest. Though you will get, I'm not sure if you have any experience with VR, but my experience is that I get very seasick. And it's called virtual reality sickness. So I take like some anti-nausea medication before I play it, and that seems to help a little bit. But I only can play it for like certain time intervals before I'm like, you know what, my body's had enough. I'm gonna vomit. But the VR on the MetaQuest, it's really good, and I highly recommend it. And it's overall a really good game. And playing it with actually being in there, it makes it so much more scarier, because then you see these enemies coming at you, and they get closer and closer, and you keep shooting them, and then you're out of ammo, and you're like, oh god, I gotta reload, and they're like all in your face.
Yeah, I can imagine that's a bit unnerving.
Oh yeah. So, but I think I rambled on about my experience with Resident Evil 4 being my favorite number 1 game out of the whole entire series. What are your thoughts on Resident Evil 4?
Yeah, so I think, as I kind of mentioned earlier, there's certain games that came after Resident Evil 4 that tended to lean way too much into the sort of action behind it. And, sadly, I think that's because of how great the action stuff in Resident Evil 4 was, that they decided to do that. But the problem is that whereas everything before Resident Evil 4 was a bit more on the horror side of things, and the 2 that came after were a little bit too much to the action side of things. In my personal opinion, Resident Evil 4 was the perfect balance of those two things.
Exactly.
They held a lot of the spirit of, again, I've seen some of the Resident Evil 3 remake, like played through on like YouTube and stuff. So I do have like some experience of at least seeing it. Not so much with Resident Evil 2, the original or remake, but Resident Evil 4 keeps a lot of the spirit of like those previous games in how it just handles everything with the horror and the absolute abominations that you have to fight in some points, and everything, and adds the little bit of action to it. Like you said, makes you feel like this really badass ex-cop that was trained by the government, and you can feel that. Like you feel that way. It's like, oh yeah, I'm such a badass, but I can get my ass torn apart in like any second from some enemy growing a giant knife head and just stabbing me through.
Yeah, or and then like the death is like, oh
yeah, or getting chased and decapitated by a guy with a chainsaw.
Oh yeah, I remember that scared the shit out of me when I was in VR.
Yeah, I can,
because I remember. I have a story about that. Sorry to interrupt you, but I have a story about that. I was in VR and Michaela was watching me stream it on my iPad.
Yeah,
and I was sitting there, and it was during that first scene where you're in that village and like all those people are coming to attack you. And I'm sitting there like next to this house, and I'm just shooting everyone, doing headshots. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing great. And then I hear from behind me, rung, 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 rung. And I was like, what the fuck? And I turn around just in time to see the chainsaw coming straight from my head. And I literally like scream. I'm like, oh! And then my wife is just dying laughing. She's like, I was like, oh gosh. It's totally different being in the shoes and seeing a chainsaw come for your head.
Yeah, no joke.
Oh.
It's like, glad you think this is funny, wife.
Right? So after that, I've made it a habit to look behind me in VR all the time to make sure that does not happen again.
Yeah, but that actually leads me into like my final point on Resident Evil 4 is just how damn iconic it is. Like,
oh yeah,
anybody thinks of that knows Resident Evil as a series thinks of that village and the chainsaw guy in the village at the beginning of the game. They think of the fucking Salazar. They think of just shit. I was gonna call him Old Rutstein just because of the magic card that reminds me of him. But the shopkeeper, what are you buying? They think of that. They think of that because it's so iconic, and I don't know, man. Like it is Resident Evil. That whole game is just Resident Evil, and just like with you, I may or may not be able to get it right when it comes out, but like I haven't been able to play it because they, instead of making the 360 version backwards compatible, they re-released it on Xbox One, so I would have to re-buy it, which I have not done. But the fact of like, oh, we're getting a remake now, and it's going to have additional content and like more shit in it.
Yeah,
and it's going to be
took away the QuickTime events. I heard that.
Oh yeah. And so, oh man, that means I can't miss a QuickTime button and get Nick Krauser stabbing the living shit out of me anymore. Yep. That's disappointing.
Which apparently in the remake he calls him Major Krauser.
Oh boy.
So I think they changed the story just slightly again.
Yeah, more like major pain in the ass. I'm just kidding.
Right?
But oh man, yeah,
more like Sour Krauser.
Yeah, I was just reminded of another like, oops, I fucked up a QuickTime event thing where like I wasn't ready for it the first time I was playing through like that portion, and because like his first action is he throws a knife at you.
Oh, yep. I remember that.
Yeah, so it's like I'm sitting here watching this cutscene. All of a sudden, he throws a knife, and I see a button. I'm like, "Oh shit!" I try to grab my controller and just knife straight into Leon's neck. And I was like, "Oh well, Leon's dead." He's
and
dead.
then the classic death, like.
But yeah, so that's my thoughts. It's a perfect blend of horror and action. Probably the most iconic of the series. I think personally the best, at least prior to 7 and 8. Again, I don't really know. I watched a full playthrough of 7. Looks pretty good, but I don't know. I would feel like 4 maybe is just with the nostalgia and the how iconic it is and how greatly balanced it is. I feel like it might just still be the best.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think 4 takes the crown on that, and I think Capcom knows that and tries to re-imitate the success that they had from Resident Evil 4 with like the remakes and the future games that have come out, with the exception of 7 and 8, which we'll get into that here in a second. But yeah, so moving forward from Resident Evil 4, we kind of went downhill on Resident Evil for a while, because if I remember correctly, I read an article where Capcom was really wanting to focus on just like the action portion of it, because Call of Duty was getting really big then, and horror games weren't being played as much, so they wanted to try to find stuff focused more around action, because they wanted to compete with like Call of Duty and all that.
That makes sense.
So they made Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 5 still had like some scary horror stuff here and there, but it was mostly action, especially when Chris punches a boulder, or, spoiler alert, like finishes off Wesker by firing a rocket through his head while he's melting in a boiling hot lava.
Yeah.
But yeah, Resident Evil 5, it honestly wasn't my favorite. I have a lot of nostalgia from it, from playing it with you, and it being the first co-op Resident Evil game, so we played that like nonstop, and we had like a lot of good times with it or whatnot. And besides that, looking back on it, I'm not sure if I would pick it back up again, because the story's okay. It kind of fleshes out into like, okay, we've got another new virus called the Ouroboros virus, and Albert Wesker's at it again, guys. Like, grab the mystery machine and let's go. And
let's Scooby-Doo this shit.
Exactly. So there was just a lot of action and not a lot of horror from it. So it didn't sit right with me too well, and I wouldn't even put it on my like top 5 or top 3 or whatnot of my favorites. I mean, how do you feel about it?
Yeah. So, okay, I want to make one comment about how, so the game, as much, for like a game with like a fantasy element of, there being zombies and things like that, starts off actually pretty grounded, in the sense that it's like, oh, there's just some weird shit going on in Africa. Chris drops there, meets, who's going to be his partner there, Sheva, and the two of them start investigating like this weird shit that's going on. And somehow, as grounded as like that first kind of opening is, and the first little bit of the game, it gets so batshit crazy. With, like you said, literally, it ends with, spoiler alerts, but it ends with him punching the shit out of a boulder that's like 4 times his size. And then, they're blasting a rocket through Wesker's head, and this huge ass explosion in what is essentially the, inside of a volcano. Like, it's fucking ridiculous.
Oh yeah, and then they're like, I hope he's finally dead this time. I'm like, what was your first clue? Because kind of like back history of Wesker is that he supposedly died in the first game, but then came back in Resident Evil 4 as like Ada's like boss, and then Resident Evil 5 he was like the mastermind behind Ouroboros, because he wants to be like Fountain of Youth as shit and be like young forever and alive forever or whatnot, and wants to be strong and powerful, wants to be a god of this world. So I don't know. It got really out of hand, and then yeah, they continued that out of handness with Resident Evil 6.
Yes.
They continued it to where it got so ungrounded, to where even the beginning of Resident Evil 6, like, you start off the game playing as Leon and what was her name? Heidi?
Helena, I think.
Helena, yeah. I don't know why I thought Heidi, but Helena.
Plume. Just kidding.
Right. But Helena, and you're going through this area where she's hurt, and you're like, okay, yeah, like, this is sort of Resident Evil, and then it gets to the point where, like, you're sprinting down, like, through all these cars, and then you look up, and there's a giant, like, 747 Boeing plane above you that's, like, flying super low, about to crash into a building, and then there's helicopter where Ada's in it, and, like, shooting shit up, and, like, then Leon, you find out, like, at the very beginning of the game, he carries 2 pistols because he's a fucking badass, of course. And you can press both, like, the L1 and R1 at the same time to do, like, some crazy, batshit crazy shooting fire mechanics with both your weapons. You don't even have to aim.
Yep.
And then after that, it goes and, like, oh, the president's dead, and Leon had to kill him because he turned to a zombie. And it's like, oh, that's great. So it got really out of hand. It did introduce some new characters, which I really appreciate, like Jake.
Yes.
Jake was a really good character who, spoiler alert, is Wesker's son, apparently.
He can't say dead, bitches. I'm just kidding.
I know, right? Who's the mama? I don't know.
Who knows?
But, and then Sherry is also in there as well, and they make a duo. And then, of course, Chris is in this one as well, but he's like a PTSD riddled, like, former shell of himself at the beginning of the game. And his partner Piers, who I really like Piers, is trying to get him together and, like, you're not the captain I once knew, and and all that. And spoiler alert on that one, he ends up taking a bullet for him, a literal bullet of, like, whatever infection virus it was at the time, and turns into a monster to save Chris, and then blows himself up in, like, some underwater, like, laboratory thing that they found. I don't know.
Yeah. No, the fact that they have to face like fucking like the Resident Evil zombie version of Chaos from Sonic Adventure.
Yes.
Fucking
yes. I remember that.
Like 8 times. You have to fight that thing like fucking 8 times in that.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
So I think that was the point where Capcom was losing a lot of people on Resident Evil, because it wasn't what Resident Evil was anymore. Like, if you compare Resident Evil 6 to what Resident Evil, like, the first one was, it's like night and day. Like, how do we get to this point?
Yeah. I wish that I feel like they should have just done what they did with Devil May Cry. And what I mean by that, I'm not sure if you actually know this. When Resident Evil 4 was in development, they were like, oh, we're going to throw in, like, this other shit in here, and, like, the main character's going to have a sword in addition to, like, you know, the guns and shooting shit and, you know, fighting all these zombies and whatnot, and a lot of cool action shit or whatever. And then they eventually were just
is that how they made Devil May Cry?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
They were like, wait, this isn't Resident Evil. Like, what the hell? Like, why are we doing this? And so they, instead of just scrapping the idea, they decided, you know what, let's just make this a different game series, or a different game entirely. So they, you know, sort of put that to the side, and that's what became Devil May Cry. And then they kind of went back to the roots, and we're like, okay, we're going to go back to Resident Evil, and we're going to make this what it's supposed to be. And that became what was Resident Evil 4. Gotcha. I wish
explains why I like Devil May Cry so much.
Yes.
Anywho.
I wish they had done the same instead of subjecting Resident Evil to what they subjected it to, because I think if Resident Evil 6 in particular did not have Resident Evil attached to it, if it was just some other new game that Capcom made, it would have probably, I think it would have done very, very well, because as an action game, fuck, it's cool. Like,
it is 100%.
Yeah,
super cool.
Yeah, and I can understand people's hang up and why that might be their least favorite, because it's not really Resident Evil. It's kind of the sellout thing of, we just took, a really popular franchise and did something else with it, then it didn't really work out in the way that it should have, because it had that franchise's name attached to it. But I felt the same way about it, in that I love it and I love playing it, but in terms of, is it a Resident Evil game? Like, rating it as a Resident Evil game, I would put it pretty low on the list, in comparison to the other stuff. And that's saying quite a bit, because you mentioned Jake, and he is my favorite character, I think, from the series. I loved his story arc in Resident Evil 6. I'm kind of sad that they kind of alluded to the fact that, hey, we're going to see him again in the future, and then they haven't done anything with that. Yeah, they just they've done nothing with him. Nothing. And that kind of pisses me off. But like, make a side series that's just like really cool shit with him. I don't know. And like, you alluded,
it totally could go places.
Yeah, and you alluded to like his dynamics with Sherry, and I hadn't experienced her as a character at all, because she was from some of the side games that I haven't played,
and from Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, which I didn't play any of those. I fucking love her. She's a wonderful character, and the dynamics between the two of them was amazing. Like, and just very sad that it was Resident Evil 6. I guess, if not something else. But yeah, I mean, it's, again, good action game. Not really a good Resident Evil game. I still play it just because I think it's fun. But I don't play it because I'm like, oh, I've got an itch to play Resident Evil. I would go play Resident Evil 4 if I had that,
Exactly.
So,
or one of the remakes, like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 remakes. Like,
yeah, and I'm
right there with you.
Yeah, I'm looking to eventually pick those up, because I love the over-the-shoulder third person when it's done very, very well, and those definitely look like they have the spirit of the original versions that they're based on. Do. Yeah,
100%.
So, yes. So
yeah, so I think that's where Capcom kind of looked at Resident Evil and said, like, you know what, let's make it good game again and go back to our roots, and that's where Resident Evil 7 was. And I'm going to kind of lump Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8, otherwise known as like Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Village, kind of into one, just because they have the same character of Ethan. I don't personally like him as a character. It's first person, so it's already different than the other Resident Evils. I didn't like it at first, but then I started really liking it once I got to realize, you know what, this is a horror game, and it's not an action game like the other Resident Evil games have been. It really went back to its roots, and I think what they really did after playing both those games is that Resident Evil 7 was trying to recreate what Resident Evil, like the very first Resident Evil game, did. It was trying to recreate that scene, but with like a new like thing with like the moss and all that, and it has a new story. But I think they really did a good job to where like a lot of the stuff in there like reminded me a lot of the first Resident Evil game, and I actually really enjoyed that game. I just didn't like the first person aspect of it. Yeah. Then Resident Evil Village comes out, and that was a really good game. I really like Resident Evil Village. I'm actually playing it VR right now, which, again, it's so much more scarier VR than it is like seeing it through a television. But they tried to recreate what Resident Evil 4 was with Resident Evil Village. So if you're playing Resident Evil Village, you will see a lot of similarities between Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil Village. And it's basically like they weren't even trying to hide it at this point. They were just trying to recreate another Resident Evil 4. Yeah. Like, and it's good. Don't get me wrong; it's still a really good game. I would still go back and play it, but it's not Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
And it still gets a little off the hinges near the end and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, that's my take on the Resident Evil series in a whole. I'm really excited for where they're going forward with all these remakes. But you said you watched Resident Evil 7, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What did you feel about Resident Evil 7?
It looks really, really good. I'll lead with that. It's kind of a weird thing for me because it might be similar with you where it's like because it's in the first person. I don't know if that's what the weird cut for me is or if it's something else entirely. Maybe it's because I think of a certain thing when it comes to Resident Evil and it's third person and things like that. But I don't really have much of a desire to play them personally. They're would be more like games that I would watch somebody do like a playthrough on, like a content creator that I find interesting if they played through it on YouTube. Like I said, I did that for Resident Evil 7 just because at the time I didn't have it and I wasn't necessarily going to be, shelling out the full amount for it. And somebody I happened to like was playing through it, and I was like, you know what, I'll watch them play through it, and I did. And I enjoyed watching it. I really liked watching it, but I don't know if I would personally go back and play through it myself. And it's kind of the same with Village. I haven't watched a playthrough of it yet, but I don't know if, especially at this point, because I feel like I would have to go back and play 7 to play Village, even though I don't have to, but my brain just works that way sometimes. And I don't know, like, it's just, I feel like it would just be maybe a better watch for me to watch somebody play it than to play it myself. It just doesn't really feel like my type of like thing to play, I guess. I don't know.
I totally get that. And they even added to this game a third person like add-on, which is a free add-on to where you can make the game third person instead of first person.
Huh. Interesting.
So I haven't played it third person yet, but I heard a lot of people say that they like that a lot better. But yeah, I'm playing it through VR right now, and it's scary as fucking hell.
Yeah.
Because the graphics are just so good now. So
yeah.
But yeah, so I'm playing through that right now, and I'm excited to see where Resident Evil goes in the future. With that, because I don't think, spoiler alert here, I don't think Ethan will be the next protagonist.
Ooh.
So you'll have to watch Resident Evil Village through, or I can even play it for you when I come down to Oklahoma or whatnot.
Yeah.
And you'll see why, and it all comes together, and it has a really good story, and it will definitely hit home for us being fathers of daughters, because it focuses heavy on Ethan having his daughter Rose. So
that's my daughter's middle name.
That's my daughter's middle name too.
Oh my god!
So I will do a spoiler here for you real quick at the very beginning of the game. If you haven't already seen the trailers or whatnot, basically at the very beginning of the game, Chris busts down the door of Ethan's home and shoots up Mia, his wife, right as if they're about to eat dinner, and totally brutally murders her. And then takes his daughter Rose away and says, "Take her away." And then Ethan's like, "Get your hands off my fucking daughter, that's my daughter." And then like some guy with a gun bashes your head in and you go black. And then you wake up next to like a crash car and all that, and then you're in Village, which is a lot like the Village from Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's a heart wrencher for sure, especially near the end of the game. I'm not going to spoil that part for you, but yeah, the start of the game starts with them taking his daughter Rose away, and I felt that on an emotional level. Like, after being a dad, I'm like, Get your hands off my fucking daughter. Like,
Yeah, if somebody does that, I'd be flipping all kinds of shit.
exactly. So, if you don't have anything else you'd like to bring up about Resident Evil, I feel like we talked about Resident Evil for quite some time now.
Yes, we have.
So, I wanted to switch gears into a video game that actually you introduced me to, and I'll let you take the reins from here about this particular video game because I enjoy it, you enjoy it, and we're excited for the next game to come out of this particular one. So, without further ado, go ahead.
Yeah, so this particular game, I can't even necessarily remember what my favorite video game was, prior to high school. This game came out my freshman year of high school. It was definitely freshman year.
Okay.
And as soon, I was very intrigued by the idea of the story. And so I kind of took a gamble and was like, you know what, I'm going to buy this basically right after it came out. I bought it within the first week that it had released. And holy shit, I absolutely love it. The story is amazing. I fell in love with it almost immediately. And no doubt, it is the game that I have played through the most times. It is one of the only games that I have literally done everything in. I've collected all the collectibles, completed every achievement. I've basically done everything for this game, and I still play it from time to time. And that is Alan Wake. So, essentially, the premise of it is there is this writer by the name of Alan Wake, and he and his wife go on vacation to Bright Falls, which is this town in Washington, little tiny ass town, kind of in the mountains, surrounded by woods, like nothing out there. They go out there for a vacation. He's suffering from writer's block, so he just wants to get away from everything. She kind of does it, as a way to sort of get him away from things so he can try to start writing again, which kind of makes him mad. But the thing is that deep within this lake that they end up getting a cabin on is this sort of dark entity that essentially forces him to write a story. He loses 2 weeks, if I remember correctly, it was 2 weeks of his life.
I think so, yeah.
That he does not recall or have memory of any of it, where he's written this entire book, about these things going on. And when he comes to, the last thing he remembers, his wife, falls into the lake on this island, and so he jumps into the water after her, and then he wakes up behind the wheel of a crashed car 2 weeks later. And it turns out the island doesn't exist anymore. It sunk many years prior. His wife has been missing. He has been missing, but he just miraculously turned up. Miraculously doesn't know what happened the past 2 weeks. And so everybody's kind of looking at him as possibly having kidnapped her or murdered her or done something. They think he's maybe crazy because he also is coming across these pages of the book that he'd written. And all of the things that he's written in the book are coming to life. They're coming true. And so this book is basically unraveling itself right before his eyes, and he's the main character. And basically, it's just, this dark entity is like chasing after him the whole time, and it's turning these people into the Taken, which they're not quite like zombies, but they're essentially these people that have just been corrupted by darkness, and the only way to set them free essentially is to shine light on them and then blast the shit out of them with a gun,
with your pistol, with your shotgun, whatever you have on your person.
Yep. You just you bust a cap in their ass, and then they disappear into nothing. So he's basically going around just murdering these people. But so it's this entire story unraveling about just what exactly the hell is going on, and they hit the nail on the head with the sort of ambiance of scary in the dark in the woods at night with no light, and all of these things going bump in the night, and it has this very unique mechanic that there hasn't really been any games that have done anything like this before, at least from what I know, where, I mentioned you have to kind of shine light on the enemies in order to make them, where you can pop the cap in their ass. Because there's basically all of the enemies are surrounded by this darkness, and you are running around with not just a pistol, but a flashlight. And if you shoot them, it doesn't do anything. But if you first shine the flashlight on them, you can then, after a little bit of time, get rid of the darkness that's surrounding them, and then you can shoot them and eliminate them. And so there's a lot of play on, the use of light in the game, whether it's from your flashlight, using flares or a flare gun, using just like natural lighting that's around you to like escape enemies and things like that.
Headlights on your cars and running them over.
Yes, yeah. That's just very it's very unique. There really isn't any other game that I've ever experienced before then or since then that uses such a unique kind of aspect behind it like that. And that was another thing I think that really drew me to it, was the game was just different. It was so different from anything I'd played before in the past. And obviously there's a few things that are kind of along the lines that are also made by Remedy Entertainment, the company that made Alan Wake, that take a lot of really interesting mechanics and things like that aren't really used very often, or things like that, and they throw them together in all their games. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like the company so much, is experimenting with that kind of stuff. And Alan Wake, man, just fantastic story. I love Alan as a character because he's such a fucking asshole at the beginning of the game. And
he is.
He kind of realizes, like, I guess the more and more he's going through all of this stuff, just like how much he's taken things for granted and everything, and he kind of has like this redemption at the end, and it kind of goes into the it's not really a sequel, but there's Alan Wake's American Nightmare. It's a bit repetitive because it's basically just the same 3 levels over and over again, like 3 or 4 times. But he's basically trapped in like this recurring cycle because he's in the like dark realm or whatever. He's kind of stuck between. Yeah, he's basically stuck between there and the real world. And they kind of allude at the end of that he's kind of made his way back into the real world, which we know now that may or may not have actually happened, because we have an Alan Wake 2 coming, and I'm so excited for it. Because if there was one game,
also, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if there's one game that I was super anticipating ever hearing some kind of information on, it was an Alan Wake 2. And I remember seeing the announcement trailer for it. I think it was maybe it was the Video Game Awards like 2 years ago or something. I don't remember how long ago it was, but they revealed the trailer, and I saw it, and I was completely quiet until after the trailer ended. And then I'm pretty sure my wife thought I was crazy because I was just like, yes, fuck yeah. But yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Oh yeah. And I think it also alludes that he's not out of the lake yet, because there's actually DLC in another video game called Control, made by Remedy. And in that one, it's about the character. They're following his pages that he's typed while in the lake. So, and watching some of his nightmares come to life and all that, and it's very, very spooky and creepy ambiance and all that. So, but I mean, I agree with you that Alan Wake is a phenomenal game, and I'll have to be honest with you, Ryan, that I did not like the game when I first played it. When I first played it, because I remember you suggested it when I was, when we were in high school and all that, I was like, man, whatever, it looks like a boring game. But and then I remember later on seeing it for sale on, I think it was PlayStation 4 at the time. And I was like, yeah, I'll play it. I'll give it a try. And I play a little bit of it. And I'm like, this is stupid. Why do I have a freaking flashlight? Why can't I just shoot the guy? and getting frustrated and just not playing it again. And then I downloaded the remaster version on PlayStation 5, and I play it with my wife, where my wife's watching me play the game. And at first I was like, I got to the part where like you get in the woods and there's like this axe murderer kind of guy, and I was like, this just seems too cliche for me. Like, I don't like this. Like, it's very confusing. What's the point of it? And then I was like, you know what? I just need to trust the process. I need to trust the process, and I'm sure it'll get better after that. And holy crap, it did.
Yes.
To the point where like me and my wife were addicted. Like, as soon as like we got done playing the game, or like got done with work, we would come home and be like, okay, we ready to play Alan Wake? I'm like, yeah, let's play it. And then I'd play it, and at the end of it, like, we'd be scared to go to sleep because it was dark. We're like, there's no light. Like, and we'd have nightmares about it. At least me, I would have nightmares about it. And it's just a really good game. All around, once you get a hold of the controls, once you understand the story behind it all, once the side characters start coming in, it makes it 100% better and much more full of a game, to the point where it's like the whole part of the game is not knowing what the hell's going on, but getting bits and pieces to piece it all together for it to all come together full circle at the very end.
Yep.
So once I realized that it was like, I don't have to understand what's going on right now, I just need to get the other pieces, then it got much better. And I was trying to understand like what's real, what's not real. Like, oh, is Alan Wake just crazy and he's just in this like insane asylum from this like doctor guy?
Oh yeah.
And I remember that part. I was like, was all this just fake? And then I was like, nope, it's not all fake.
the great twist that retwists.
Oh yeah. And the Thunder Gods. What is it, like the band of Asgard or whatnot?
Yeah, the old gods of Asgard.
Yeah. And that part where like the music was playing and the lights were shining everywhere. Such a badass moment.
Yeah.
But such a hard part of the game.
Oh, dude. What difficulty did you play it on?
I played it on normal.
On normal? Okay, so I, of course, originally when I played through it on normal. I've gotten to a point where I played through it so much that I actually stepped it up to the hardest difficulty and was playing it on the hardest difficulty, and I've beaten it on the hardest difficulty. That part took me so many tries on the hardest difficulty because it gets fucking nuts, where there's just like 800 people almost like coming at you, and
enemy
you're like,
after enemy after enemy, and then you like to flare like little pinwheel things.
Yeah,
Oof.
Yeah, it gets fucking hard at times.
Oh yeah, and you just gotta keep trugging through, and you'll eventually get through there.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it's a really good game. I'm really excited for the second one, and I need to play all the way through on the DLC on Control because I feel like there's still bits of story in there as well. So, which that's a game you need to play. But
yes, it is.
Yeah. So the ending of the game, though, it left me like, I understand the ending, and I understand how the hero of the book he's writing, which is himself, how he couldn't get everything he wanted without a price to pay.
Yeah.
And all that, but at the same token, I'm like, what is his wife doing now? Like,
okay, so that's actually where, again, Alan Wake's American Nightmare. I don't remember if Remedy, or specifically Sam Lake, the guy that runs Remedy, he's like a really huge part in actually making the games. Like, he's not just, I run the company and just pocket from all these people like doing shit. Like, he's actually like one of the big influences creatively, and like goes in and like does stuff and like whatnot. And I don't know if he's gone on record saying like, whoa, American Nightmare is kind of like a side thing, and maybe is canon, maybe isn't, or whatever. But it does go a lot in depth about kind of what Alice, Alan's wife, is doing while he's gone, because basically the premise of American Nightmare is, I'm sure you remember I think it's in chapter 6 of the base game, Tom the diver shows him like, hey, this is Mr.
Yep.
Scratch. He's like you, and he's gonna kind of take your place like in the real world or whatever, like while you're gone, until you can, I guess, figure out like how to get out of here. And so basically the whole premise is, Mr. Scratch is a fucking psychopath. And
Yep. I remember that.
yeah, he's trying to, he can kind of, I guess, finagle his way, because he's a part of the darkness. So between like the two sort of realms. And so, he's basically trying to get rid of Alan so Alan can't get back. And so he can basically just stay in the real world and live Alan's life. And Alan, of course, is trying to get back to the real world, and so he has to kind of get rid of Mr. Scratch. And, all the while you get to see like these things on like the televisions around of him, finding people and just murdering them for no reason and like being crazy and things like that. And all the while, all of this is like going on, you also see little tidbits on like the TV and things like that of Alice going on like television and on like a late night show or whatever, because Alan has been missing for however long. I think it's been like a year or 2 years or 3 years or something like that. He's been missing, and so she's still going on like shows or like radio shows or things like that, and talking about how like he's missing, but she feels that he's still out there, and she wants people to help her like find him, and not giving up hope that he's gone forever, he's dead or anything like that. She's like, I know he's still out there, I can feel him, and things like that. And so she's still basically searching for him the whole time he's gone.
Gotcha.
So as far as everybody else is concerned, like in the real world, he's just gone missing, kind of like she did in the first one. And so she's just trying to naturally find him and like where he went, not knowing that, he's in the dark place. Stuck trying to get back.
The dark place looks so like upside down and crazy, and it's like hell.
Yeah.
It's like literal hell.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but
so it pulls a lot of stuff from the first one kind of into it. It's not, it's more of like a really short kind of just add-on type game. It's not really sort of a full thing in and of itself. So, and not entirely sure if it's even necessarily canon or whatever, but it's actually set up as an episode of Night Springs, which is the Twilight Zone-esque like show that's in the universe that you can watch episodes of, like
I remember
the TVs in the first one. Yeah, so he's actually quote unquote in an episode of Night Springs that's playing on a TV that Barry is watching or was watching but fell asleep to in a hotel room.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
but
it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I like the game. The part of the game that I liked the most too was the nighttime radio host.
Yes.
And in my mind, I don't know about you, but I feel like the podcast that we're doing right now is kind of like a nighttime kind of thing, and I can see like that being like our kind of gig, like late night, can't sleep, and just like dogs barking out and like trying to look for your dog in the middle of the night, and then like your character's like, no, don't do that, like there's freaking monsters out there.
Gotta be safe out there, folks.
Exactly. So that guy was pretty awesome, especially when like Alan Wake came into like his studio. I can't remember how that played out, because I think
the cop fucking shoots at him. Like,
and then shoots the radio host, I think, right?
He doesn't hit the radio host, but the radio host is kind of just like, what the fuck? Why are you shooting at me? Or why are you shooting at us?
I remember that. And like the FBI guy is like going crazy. He's like, I gotta find Alan Wake. I gotta find Alan Wake.
Yeah, and I love the little allusions that the FBI guy like keeps like calling him like Hitchcock and like like all of like the like famous writer names and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like calls him Hemingway and like things like that. So great.
Oh yeah. Really good game. I'm excited for the second one to come out. I wish there was more games of this topic that we could talk about. But
Yeah.
with that being said, I think those are the two video games that kind of made us as far as like horror games. I mean, there are of course some honorable mentions that we won't get into like too much detail, but I would say The Last of Us for me is an honorable mention, just because the main character Joel reminds me of my dad a lot. And like, if you ever thought to yourself, "Hey, I wonder what Matthew's dad was like," just play the game The Last of Us or watch the show or whatnot, and that's my dad. Joel is my dad. So part 2 is really heart wrenching, which I won't get into that, but part 1 is heart wrenching in of its own self, but still a very good game. And I definitely think you should either watch it on the TV show or play the game. So
yeah. And
do you have any honorable?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, sadly, I don't have a PlayStation, and it's a PlayStation exclusive. But yeah, I'm definitely going to at some point need to, because my wife wants to watch it as well. So I'm gonna at some point have to force myself and her to sit down and watch the show at least, because
oh yeah,
we're both excited to get into watching it.
Yeah, and I will tell you that the show is different than the original game, just slightly in like some like plot points or whatnot. But overall, I hear a lot of people like it. I haven't watched it a lot just because I'm more into like the video game side of things. Like I like the video game.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you started playing it, so the characters being different actors and stuff is probably weird.
Oh yeah, the original game carried so much more emotion, like with the actors, and the TV show I feel like doesn't, from the tidbits I've seen. But I mean, I'll have to watch it to like give it a good honest review. So
yeah.
But anyways, any honorable mentions that you would like to bring up for like horror video games that kind of made us?
Yeah, so one of, and strangely enough, I think when I go into I'm not going to explain a whole lot about it, but I'm going to kind of talk about like why it's up there for me. It might be, aside from Alan Wake, I actually might say that it might be one of my favorite, if not like my favorite horror game, and that is The Evil Within. So there are two of them. I have not played the second one, and I have played all but I believe the final chapter of the first one. Now, I started playing the first one years ago, like back in I think my stepdad gave it to me, I think back it was the year after I graduated college, because that's when I got my Xbox One, and it was shortly after I got my Xbox One that he gave it to me, because he had bought it to play it, and he was like, yeah, and it's just like, it's a survival horror game, and I'm not really into those, so like, here you go. And I was like, cool, I'm into those, and I've been looking at this game, so cool. The gameplay and like all that stuff like just fits absolutely with like what I would want in that type of game. But holy shit, like I don't get scared, and I don't necessarily get scared at the Evil Within either. But that game was so damn exhausting is the way that I would put it. Just like
I would put it that way too.
All of the shit they throw at you, and like the constant like, you think you're okay and you're in like a safe zone, and then all of a sudden it's like you're in like this upside down, and there's enemies all over the place, and you're getting chased by like this dude with a giant axe, and like all kinds of just crazy shit out of nowhere. It was so exhausting. I would play through a chapter, and then I'd have to set the game down for like weeks before like I would be like, okay, I think like I've recovered enough to like be rested to go into this thing again. And
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it is this way or if it just like I got to a point at chapter, I don't remember how many chapters there are. I want to say there's like 16 or 14 or it's not somewhere around there.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it was like chapter 12, I think, or somewhere around there, that there's this like weird, creepy spider lady kind of monstrosity chasing you. And so there was like 5 times during that chapter. That chapter is so fucking long. And
oh yeah, some of them are
like,
pretty long.
yeah, there was like 4 times where I was certain that that chapter was going to be over. And guess what? It wasn't.
It wasn't.
And I was like, oh, finally, I can take a breather and this chapter is going to be over. And then it was like, bro, gets chasing you again. And I'm like, fuck. And I that drained me and exhausted me so bad that it was like years before I went and got back into it. And yeah, so I still need to go and finish the final chapter to just end the game. But holy crap, man. I think it's really good. The story so far has been really, really good, and I love it. I think, again, I would say he's probably in my top 5 favorite characters. Sebastian, I think is his name. Castellanos. Yep. I love him as a character.
Oh yeah.
And just the whole thing of, you know, him being a family man and wanting to do right with by his family, but then kind of like losing that and it like driving him insane, and oh my gosh, it's great.
Oh yeah.
The game is really good.
Once you play the final chapter, which I'll say the final boss of the very first game, it's not hard.
Good.
Like it leaves like on an open note, like, oh, I thought there was going to be more. Like, don't get me wrong, like there's still a lot of shit that happens, but it's just not hard.
Yeah.
So it's not going to make you exhausted at all, but I don't want to spoil anything for you. But at the end of the game, it leaves like on a very open note and very plot twist.
Ooh.
And then the second game just drives it all home and pulls it all together into one nice little package. But
good.
I haven't played it in a little bit, but I remember the second game. I like the second game a lot more. And
sweet.
Sebastian is an excellent character, and the song that plays in the game during the safe zones.
Oh yeah.
What's that song called?
Oh, it's because
I love that song.
Yeah, it's a really good hug.
Yeah.
Because I want to say they use it don't they use it in one part of one of the Resident Evil games too?
I think so too. And it's just so calming and relaxing, but it's also creepy and eerie at the same time. Are you trying to find it right now?
Yes. Claire de Lune.
Yes, that song. Oh, yeah. I love that song. And once I heard it on the game, I was like, I know I have to download this song, so I downloaded it on my phone, and it's in my phone library right now. And it's just it's a really good game, and I would say that from the games that we picked, kind of looking at a whole, that I picked games to talk about that were focused around zombies, like with like The Last of Us and all the Resident Evil stuff. And the games you picked for horror were psychological horrors. With
that shows how fucked up my mind is.
And Alan Wake, and it's great. Like psychological horrors, like with the games where you don't know what's real, what's not real.
Yeah. I like a good mind fuck, apparently.
Yeah. And so do I, apparently, because I love both those games. So
yeah,
it's really good to see like the 2 different corners of horror that we can go for, like more sort of realistic, like zombies, where like you're a sane person and shooting the zombies, to like it's all inside your head, or is it really not, or is it real, or is it not real?
Yeah, no joke.
That's another mind fuck. So
yeah.
Any closing comments you'd like to leave everyone with? I feel like we've rambled on a lot about these games in particular.
Yeah. So I do want to share this little tidbit of information that I just randomly learned while Googling that I didn't actually know before. But The Evil Within was actually made by the creator of the Resident Evil series.
Really?
Yeah, so I guess that explains why
Wow.
the two of us absolutely love that.
That explains a lot, actually.
Yeah, because it does have it does share a very similar kind of vibe to it. It's just a little bit more, like you were saying, like psychological horror, as opposed to the zombie, just monstrosity horror that Resident Evil, like the classic horror, I would say, I guess, as opposed
Exactly,
to yeah. So that was the last little thing that I can think of, aside from just
interesting. Well,
fucking horror games are great.
yeah, they are, and I actually might play some after we get done talking after all this, because I am in the mood where I can't sleep right now. So
yeah, I feel you there.
But yeah, so I mean, without further ado, I think that we've talked a lot about games, and we can cut all this out because I'm rambling now.
Nope, not happening.
But with that, friends, remember to stay tired, especially after us talking about horror games where you probably won't be able to sleep now. So stay tired, friends.
Stay tired. Or do we need to do a little bit of ASMR to help you get to sleep? Just kidding. You're in the Upside Down. You're being chased. Listen to the sweet sounds of the chainsaw.
Fuck, am I bleeding?